Hey guys, Elisa Wallace here. Welcome to another frequently asked questions. Probably one of the most frequently asked question is how I got my start. Before I get into that, I want to do a big thank you to all of my Patreons and subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and make sure to click the little bell thingy down at the bottom, and that would be great. How I got started goes way far back to when my parents had me. People always ask me, how long have you been riding? I'm like, well, I've been riding since before I was born because my mom rode when she was pregnant with me. So I've been very lucky to have two parents that were avid riders and horse lovers. My dad has always been a rider. My mom is more so on the conservative side. She enjoys the horse management. She'll probably laugh at me for saying that. I was very, very blessed with being just fully immersed into horses at a very young age. Both my parents were teenage parents, so they did things that maybe in hindsight, an older parent might not. I don't know. I was riding by myself at the age of 2, helping my dad out doing trot sets. And then by the age of 4, I was doing my first competitions. My dad was involved in eventing. He also had a background in Western events as well, but eventing had become his passion, and I certainly followed into that. I grew up with horses. We had a large farm up until I was around 8-ish. We had a large farm down in Noonan, and we bred horses, so we had young foals, and my dad was a trainer and my mom helped run the barn. That's kind of how I was immersed in horses. As I got older, my parents ended up getting a divorce. At that time, it was hard for us to afford a horse, but my dad still had a training barn, but he switched to the hunter jumpers. I still really loved eventing though. It was good for me to do the hunters and the jumpers and the equitations. I did that probably up until I was like 12 or 13. Went to the McClay finals. And again, that was all really good education. But my real passion was for eventing. There was a time period though that I took as a teenager where I asked myself if horses was really what I wanted, because it really is a lifestyle. I took about 6 months and didn't ride. I tried it. I was like, what's kind of being like a normal person like? And I was depressed. So I realized, okay, well, I want to do horses, and so I took any ride on any type of horse. I rode ponies that bucked me off, took any type of horse I could ride. I just wanted any opportunity. I was very hungry for it, and I wanted to get the most experience I could, making sure I still got good grades in high school. I did go to college, and at that time, I saved up all of my graduation money from high school and purchased a yearling thoroughbred that me and my mom drove to Kansas and got. I stuck him in my basement because I couldn't afford board. His name was Jackson, and I worked off hay and use of the arena next to...
So, explain the basement, because, okay, you're going to have people wanting to throw horses in their basement. So explain this basement situation.
So, okay, the basement. Yeah, so we had a backyard. Well, I live right next to a farm. Like Karen, my dressage trainer, who's known me since I was little, had a farm next to us. And my mom's house had like 1.5 acres, and she has a basement. And I built a stall in the basement. So, I mean, it's kind of like how I live now. I live above the barn.
Could you turn the horse out of the basement?
Yeah, you just open up the garage door and there was Jackson.
So you didn't have to walk your horse up the stairs and out the front door to turn him out?
No, there was no walking upstairs. There was just, you open the garage door and there he was. I actually put 2 horses in our basement. He lived in the backyard, put a round bale back. It was basically like a backyard. Like it was a paddock. That's what I know, is a paddock. I made that work for about a year. And then I was able to find a barn that I could work off board, and So I ended up working off board. Meanwhile, I was still going to college and making sure I went downtown to Georgia State and crammed all of my classes into 2 days essentially. And I was there at school from about 6 in the morning until 9, 10 o'clock at night, depending on when my labs would end. But that way, that gave me the flexibility to keep training horses, and I could compete. And I was building a clientele at that time as well with working other horses. And then eventually Jackson became my first advanced horse. And I ended up graduating from college. I was always on the dean's list for the most part, maybe minus 1 or 2. Got my bachelor in art because I thought to myself, if I couldn't do horses, what else would I want to do? And I really enjoyed art, and that also helped me with the social media, with the artistic kind of thought process, that it lends a fun way into the horses. So I think that's kind of like the snowball effect of it all. My mom and my dad were both really pivotal in the support. Of course, you go through, like, as a teenager when you have some of your moments. My dad has always been pretty influential as far as, like, helping and support with the training, and I mean, especially when I was younger. My mom has always been very supportive. So I've been very blessed to have very supportive parents that have always allowed me to find my dream, except for the time where my dad told me I was an idiot for getting a yearling, but he takes that back. Why did I decide to go to university?
Because a lot of people ask, should I go to university? Should I not go to university? If I want to be a horse person, shouldn't I just spend my entire time focusing on being a horse person?
Well, first of all, my mom, since she was a teenage mother, she made some sacrifices in not going to college. From a young age, I really had no choice of going to college. For me, I'm the type, I can procrastinate on things. So I would rather just go ahead and do it and get it done and over with. And I wanted to get done with school so I could then pursue, instead of pushing it back and waiting a year. Because then that just allows you to push it back further. I'd rather just go ahead and get it done. I also think it was really important to have that college experience. Just opens your mind, and you need to be kind of open with horses. And it also sets you up in this business. You're not just dealing with horses, you're dealing with clients and owners, and you have to be open and educated, and I think it's really important. And for people who haven't, everybody has their own avenue, but for me, I think it was really important to take that time and make sure I accomplish that.
You were a working student. What was that like, being a working student? When was that?
Well, when you grow up as the trainer's kid, you're always a working student. So let's just be clear. You always have to work. I was a working student for Nick Larkin for a little bit, and I learned a lot. It's long hours. Your feet are always wet, it seems, but that's experience. It's priceless. I mean, I learned a lot. People are willing to help as long as you're willing to put in the effort. So I think for me, as well as when I have students, and as long as you're willing to try, I'm willing to try. It's an investment. I think it's an investment in your education. So making the most of being a working student. Like for me, okay, you don't always have to pay to have a lesson. So the way I learn by watching. If there was a lesson going on with another rider, and if I had the time, I would certainly watch. That's a free lesson right there. It's just observing and paying attention to all the small little things. Recently I had a comment, I think on one of my videos, where she said she had a late start and she's 13. That's not that old still. Our sport is a unique sport because it takes a while. You've got people compete. Mark Todd, he's in his 60s. There is a long time. This is not a short churn and burn type of sport. This is a sport that is in the long run. So education is most important. Learning anything, the good and the bad. Like, you have to make the mistakes to learn what not to do as well. I never think it's too late to start riding. The one thing with starting later is the ground hurts a little bit more versus when you're younger. You tend to bounce up pretty quick. If that's what you want to do, then do it. So thanks for joining me for this frequently asked question. A big thank you to my Patreons. Patreons are an incredible group of people that have been very supportive. It's a really fun way that I can stay really connected to the fans, and it's a direct line to me as well. Oftentimes you guys will ask me questions on YouTube and some of my other social medias, and while I try to answer them, it can be hard to answer every single one. But my Patreon, that is a direct link to me. It's really fun to do updates. I make sure to keep my Patreons updated with everybody who's in the barn, all the kind of current things, good and bad, that's happening. It's $1 a month. That's like less than a candy bar nowadays. Thank you for subscribing. Again, if you haven't yet, make sure to click that and click the bell. And I hope to see you guys soon.